All right, hopefully you guys can hear me. This is my first live stream, so bear with me a little bit here. It was trouble getting it set up in the first place. Thank you for the congrats on 10,000 subscribers. It's like so cool to me that so many of you have been supporting the channel and liking the videos and everything. So I greatly appreciate it. Okay, good. You can hear me? Awesome. And so I want to do like a fun live stream, like a Q&A, answer any of your guitar questions. If you want help with your playing, what you should be learning, what you should be practicing, you want to hear anything at all. I just want to say thanks for everyone supporting again. And, it's been super fun. You guys like motivate me to think of new content and put out, fun versions and write my own music that way and everything. So it's just been so much fun getting back into this. Can you guys hear the guitar okay? Thank you. I appreciate all this. This is great. This is so much fun. I love interacting with you guys and being able to answer questions and everything. So yeah, I want to do this more often. So even let me know if there's again, this is the first live stream. So if there's anything that I can do to have the sound better, or just anything you guys like seeing in live streams. I'm pretty new to this, so it's a lot of volume up on the guitar. Let's see if I can do that. So I'm actually plugged into, I can probably turn it up a bit. Let's see. Yeah, so the gear I'm using, this is something I get asked a lot in my videos. So the funny thing is I'm plugged straight into GarageBand right now, like no fancy gear of any kind. This guitar is going straight into the interface, and I'm using GarageBand for all my sounds. And maybe I can, give you guys, a little walkthrough of some of the different tones that I use in GarageBand, because I really do think it has amazing guitar tones in it. Some of them I've tweaked a little bit just to make them a little bit more my style or slightly better sounding. But I think, any of my videos you've watched in the last 6 months, whether it's the jazz shorts or the Hotel California video, or just any of that stuff, it's all been GarageBand tones. So it's fun to mess with. This is I think this tone is called Stadium Spread. Yeah, Stadium Spread. And literally all I did was I turned down the reverb on it just a little bit, because it comes with a ton of reverb. And it's pretty distorted, but it kind of reminds me of like Eric Johnson. It has that kind of like smooth, distorted. Let's see if I even remember how to do this thing. No. Right? I'd have to look at the rest of it, but like it gives you that really cool, kind of smooth, distorted tone. So I use that quite a bit. And then I'll show you my other main tones that I use. This is one that I've set as my own patch, and it's called Van Halen because it gives me that Eddie sound. Well, close as you're gonna get in GarageBand, but with Eddie, what I do, or my Van Halen sound, I should say, is I do turn up the reverb because if you listen to a lot of his early recordings, like the first couple albums, it's actually quite a bit of reverb on the guitar. So I find that really makes it sound more, let's see. Yeah, it's not going to sound like an actual 5150 amp, but for like plugging straight into GarageBand, it sounds like pretty good. It's pretty fun to mess around with. Just makes me want to play Van Halen. What is my opinion about those good-looking guitarists who get views just because they look better than actually good guitarists? Well, it's clearly I'm not one of them, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of a lot of there's a lot of like great guitar players online, like a lot of great guitar players online, and obviously, some better looking than others, but um yeah, I think there's like that's the cool thing nowadays with social media and YouTube and everything is like everyone can have a platform, so you don't need like a band to get big anymore. You just need a TikTok account or something like that, and if enough people like your playing and like your stuff, then uh you can really build quite a fan base, which is like super cool. And it's you can get fans from all over the world, and it's such a cool you know opportunity for musicians nowadays. And I think if you are a musician and if you are a performer of any kind, and you're not trying to take it, or you're not taking advantage of the social media aspect of music, then you're really missing out on a huge fan base or potential fan base, because yeah, it's just you can reach everyone nowadays, which is like super cool. Who is your main inspirational favorite guitarist? It's a great question. My all-time favorite would be Eddie Van Halen. This could be a 4-hour live stream if I start talking about why I like Eddie Van Halen. I even got the little miniature EVH Frankenstein that my fiance got me, which I love. So for Christmas, um, yeah, Eddie Van Halen for sure, because he really just like changed the game for guitar players. When he came out in like '78, if you look at a lot of the other guitar players, which of course there are a lot of great guitar players, you got Jimmy Page and AC/DC and all those guys, and Aerosmith, but um, Eddie comes out. He's like 23 years old at the time, and just blows away everyone else. Like just every little technique and trick that he does on the guitar is like miles beyond years and years beyond of what anyone else is doing with it. And then not only does he change the way everyone plays the guitar or approaches the guitar, he even affects or influences the build of the guitar, taking a Strat body and putting a humbucker from a Gibson in it. And that really hadn't been done too often before that. So it's like the build, the tone, the playing. He just influenced every single aspect of guitar and really changed the game. There's like pre Eddie and then there's post Eddie for guitar playing as a community. It's really amazing. Yeah, so he's always my number one for sure. The thing I like about the thing I love about Eddie that some people miss when they do like covers and stuff like that. Eddie always played with such an intensity and such like a fiery passion for the guitar and for the music. Um, so if you were to play, it's tough to do off the top of my head, but if you're to play like Eruption or any of his solos, and if you play it timidly, it's not going to sound the way he sounds. He plays with such like crazy fiery passion that when you're doing the bends, every bend he's doing is like just these insane wild bends that you're probably going to start snapping some strings if you keep doing it. But like to him it sounds amazing when he's I can't even get it. So you just have to play it like with everything you got, and that's how you'll just at least come close to Eddie. Of course, you're not going to sound like him, but um, that's the thing I love most about him. And then my second one, which I just posted, I think yesterday, Jason Becker. He's always been one of my favorites, and especially when you ask inspirational, he's probably even more inspirational than Eddie when it comes to his life story and what he's been through, and then also his playing when he was younger. Like it blows my mind how good he was at such a young age. His technical skill, his compositional ability, his feel on the instrument. Because usually, like for instance, when he's like 17 or 18, putting out Perpetual Burn, I think he was around there, like usually you have to be playing for like 17 to 18 years to get that feel. And so he's one of those guys that I put in that just like natural, um, you know, like gifted natural talent uh, part of guitar playing, where there's a lot of other great guitar players where if you put in the same amount of practice, the same amount of discipline, you would probably get pretty close to their skill level. But with someone like Jason Becker, it's different, right? It's like to be 17 or 18 years old and uh, sound like that is just, it's like Mozart composing symphonies at 11 years old. You can't learn that. It's unbelievable. So uh, I'm not going to do this the greatest, but the other day I was even going back to the song Perpetual Burn by Jason. It's actually probably one of the best takes I've gotten so far trying it. So but again, learning that, it was like blowing my mind how good he sounds when he's playing it. And it's just like, yeah, unbelievable. All right, so let's get into some more questions. This is really fun. Yeah, what are you using for the amp sim? I was saying I'm plugging straight into GarageBand. So I could even give you more detail of which patches I stick to and stuff like that. But right now I'm plugged straight into GarageBand, which again, hopefully you guys can hear it okay, just because it's coming out of the computer speakers right now. So Yeah, the mini guitars, they are like super cool. The EVH one that I showed. I want to get, they also have a 59 Gibson Les Paul one, which I thought would be really cool to get that too. And it's like the two extreme of guitars that I love. I love either like a really traditional, like Gibson Les Paul, Fender Tele, something like that, like a kind of a vintage instrument. I would love to get like a Gibson 335 or something like that, or like just shred machine, Kramer, Charvel, Ibanez. It's like one of those two guitars. I like having both, of course, just because you can go back and forth, and it really kind of influences how you play. Sometimes when you pick up a guitar, if you pick up a 335, you're probably going to play a little differently than you would if you pick up seven-string Ibanez with super high output pickups and like the deactivators I have here in the Ibanez. Those are great pickups. I love them. Yeah, EVH is one of the main reasons I decided to try and learn. Same here. When I was young, I first, I think some of my earliest influences, I got into like guys like Clapton, Jimmy Page was a big Zeppelin fan, of course. And then I got into Slash. I think I got into like Guns N' Roses, of course, and loving his playing. I still do. It's like I think Slash is actually a guitarist who is still underrated, even though he's kind of regarded as one of the best rock guitar players of all time. I actually think he's underrated. I say that to students all the time, where um, you take any Guns N' Roses song and try to picture a different guitar solo in that song, and it's like impossible. Like it's the perfect solo for that song. Like you can't picture November Rain, Sweet Child of Mine, even like Don't Cry is a beautiful one. Um, what are some of my other favorites? Like just you can't picture a different guitar solo, even like Knocking on Heaven's Door, the solos he puts into the. It's so beautiful, it's so melodic, and it's like a little song within the song, and that's what Slash is, like, brilliant with. You never get the sense that he's, like, overplaying or that he's just trying to kinda show you what he's been practicing recently. Not a knock to any other guitar players, but there are a lot of players like that where you hear them solo and it's like, "Oh, okay, they've been working on these things recently, they kinda wanna show it off or they wanna use it," whereas Slash is always like, writing a beautiful solo to the song. Um, I don't know how many of them I remember off the top of my head, but the no, uh, yeah, I don't remember. Don't cry. Something like that. Again, this is something I learned like a long, long time ago, so I don't remember it perfectly. But again, it's just such a beautiful solo. That's why I can still remember like parts of it, just because it's so like iconic. Even Civil War, that if you guys know those awesome. like those wicked blues riffs that almost sound like something Stevie Ray Vaughan or someone would play. Yeah, it's super, super cool. No, I did not play that flawlessly, but thank you. Thank you for that compliment, but not quite. What does a daily practice routine look like? This is a great question. I get this a lot on TikTok as well. Um, it's going to look different for everybody. It depends what your goals are. I have like a lot of students, and everyone is, wanting a different thing with the guitar, and that's perfectly fine. If you are someone who's wanting to get into guitar to learn some simple chords to play at a campfire or to play at a get together with some friends and be able to play some songs on the radio, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is like, if that's what you enjoy with the instrument, then that's what you should be working on and having fun with. If you sign up for lessons and you're like, hey, I want to become the next John Petrucci, it's like, okay, well, your practice routine is going to look a little different than someone who's wanting to play uh, you know, some some kind of like easier pop tunes, right? So it depends what your goals are, but I would suggest whether you have 30 minutes to practice or you have 3 hours to practice. And again, that totally depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But if you have a certain amount of time to practice, I would still divide it into different chunks of practicing different things because the variety is actually what's going to um, help you out the most. If you practice one song, only that song for a week, you're probably going to get really good at it, but it's it, it's not going to help your overall playing as much as if you practice a variety of things. So I mean, it's a pretty good idea to spend at least 5 to 10 minutes warming up your fingers. And especially if you are closer to like an intermediate guitar player, you definitely could warm up with some technique exercises. So, like a simple one, and I might do a proper video on this of showing like technical exercises and how to practice it. But a good way to start is to take like a chromatic exercise, for example, just like a, and you can start it at any fret. And as you can see, I'm using all four fingers. And then once I reach the bottom, move over, come back up the opposite way. Thank you, man. Take care. So I would do that. I would work on that exercise and start slow. It's a warm up exercise. You're just trying to warm up your fingers, but it's going to work on the dexterity, getting your fingers working independently, working up the speed as well as you continue to practice it. Um, and then a great way to warm up your fingers is take that fingering 1, 2, 3, 4 and just mix it up every single day randomly. And it's harder than it looks, but instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4, and don't mix it up for every single string, or you could if you wanted to, but like choose one and do it on all the strings. So let's say I want to do 1, 3, 2, 4. You guys can see that, okay? And it makes your fingers think a bit more as they're going across the fretboard. Because if you only practice this 1, 2, 3, 4 every day, you will get good at it. But after a while, it's not actually going to be warming up your fingers as much because they've become so accustomed to it. So each day, kind of make them think a little bit more. And it, at first, if you're doing like 4, 3, 1, 2, that's going to feel kind of awkward at first. But it keeps your fingers thinking and works on your technique that way. So that's what I would do is start with like a 5 to 10 minute warm up, practice some songs that you enjoy practicing. I would always include that in your practice routine is some fun stuff to work on. Um, and then from there, you can just kind of, you can work on so many different things. Actually, to share with you guys what I did when I was younger, Steve Vai has what he calls his 30-hour guitar workout. which is, pretty extreme, and you wouldn't really expect any less from Steve Vai. But he has his 30-hour guitar routine, which is supposed to be 10 hours of practice each day for 3 days in a row, which obviously most people not only wouldn't do, but also shouldn't do. Like, if you're not accustomed to practicing for a long period of time, you do not want to try to practice 10 hours in one day. It's going to like destroy your fingers, and you'll probably have to take a couple days off afterwards just to recover. So don't do that. But the one thing that I loved about his practice routine is that the 10-hour practice routine is divided into hour long segments. So you would practice technique for an hour, you would practice chords for an hour. And it's very rare to find guitar players who would actually sit and work on their chords for a full hour and have enough material to work with to actually keep you engaged with chords, only chords for 1 hour. Then he would practice scales, which you can work on knowing your scales around the fretboard and stuff. He would also work in ear training. Improvisation, I believe, was in there. I'd have to go back. This is many years ago. And then I think there's like, in this 10-hour routine, there's like 3 hours of jamming, which again, like you could take his 10-hour routine and actually break that down into, say, an hour or 90 minutes and do 10 minutes of practice with each thing. And that would do a lot of good for your playing. It would be a huge benefit, and you would practice kind of all aspects of your playing and being a musician, because you would work on theory, your ear, your technique, everything. Um, and so that's a great system to use, and you can probably find that online somewhere. I know it's been published in Guitar World magazine quite a few times, so I'm sure it's out there somewhere, maybe a YouTube video or something like that. But that, yeah, that's a great way to go about practicing. All right, so yeah, uh, thank you so much when you say really love to see you grow on social media. It's been so much fun, and TikTok. Um, TikTok was like totally unexpected. I had a couple students who said, "Hey, you should post, guitar videos like on TikTok." And naively, I wasn't on TikTok. I didn't know much about the platform, and I just figured I don't think there's going to be a lot of people on TikTok who care about guitar. Obviously, I was wrong, super wrong. Um, Gladly too. And I posted that Hotel California video of me doing like impressions of Eddie Van Halen, Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, and Jason Becker, and it got like 1 million views, and I couldn't believe it. It blew up, and it was like the coolest thing, and a lot of people checking it out, which was amazing. Um, but yeah, I just never expected that. So TikTok like blew up, and I think today I'm at like 90,000 followers, which is just way more than I ever thought it would ever be. So super cool. So thank you to you guys for supporting and for liking videos and sharing and everything. It means a lot to me, and I really, really do appreciate it. And I do spend a lot of my time trying to think of content to make for you guys to give back. I want to, help you with guitar playing. I want to do the best lesson videos I can think of. I want to do what you guys are wanting. So whether it's in here or on my videos, like please leave comments letting me know what you want to see more of, because that's what I want to do. If I can post a lot of like fun exercises like I've done where it's with the tabs and you guys can try them out. If you guys like the kind of like shred versions of classic tunes, then just let me know what it is that you guys like, and I would love to make more of it. So thank you again. Hey, Derek. Derek's a buddy of mine since we were younger. How have your musical taste changed from when you were younger? Um, I would say they're a lot more well-rounded nowadays. The actual music that I listen to everything, absolutely everything. If I'm in the car, it can be hip hop, anything. It can be, even some country I've kind of gotten into recently, which I never used to like. Um, I'll listen to everything. I love pop music. I actually really do love pop music. Also, as like a producer, you just kind of appreciate the work that goes into producing a pop track. And there's obviously, as I always say, there's good and bad in every genre. There's great metal bands, but there's also metal bands that aren't the best. Same with pop, same with country, same with everything. There's some great country artists, and then there's some that I may not enjoy as much. Um, yeah, so it's changed that way. I still love to go back to the guitar music that I listened to when I was younger, that inspired me to practice and work on my technique. So as I said, going back to the Jason Becker one the other day was like nostalgic and so much fun, and also just makes me appreciate all over again how insanely talented those guys are. But learning like a Paul Gilbert riff or something like that, it's like still so much. Like just so much fun. I love playing that kind of stuff. So, um, but guitar wise, like nowadays I would appreciate more watching guys like Eric Johnson, Joe Bonamassa, um, Josh Smith is like unbelievable. Guthrie Govan is definitely one of my favorites nowadays. And when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have really gotten into that style as much. But those guys are like extremely talented, and the way they play is amazing. So, um, yeah, kind of appreciating those guys a bit more. Yeah, it's always evolving, always. But yes, you're right. TikTok is a huge platform, and I was just naive to it. And I agree that you say many people don't realize how big it is, and it's totally true. I think, especially as musicians, it's probably the best platform for getting your music out there, collaborating with people, with how you can duet videos and kind of like uh, collaborate so easily that way. It's just so cool, and it's such a fun platform to be a part of. So I definitely agree. Absolutely. What's my opinion on Polyphia? Okay. All right. So my opinion on Polyphia, I heard Goat, as many of you probably did for the first time. That's what made me aware of Polyphia. And when I first heard Goat, I was so blown away, so impressed. And only recently did I find out that Tim Henson is like just a couple years younger than me. I think like maybe I don't know how many, 3 or 4 years younger than me or something, which made me feel a lot better because Tim looks young, and I thought he was like 20 years old, and I thought he was another Jason Becker. Like, are you kidding me? This guy is that talented at that age? Like, come on! And then I realized he's actually a little older than me. He looks, and I was like, all right, that makes me feel a bit better. So when I first heard Goat for the first time, Tim was probably the first guitar player that I had heard in at least 10 years that excited me as much as he did with the guitar. Like, it was probably Guthrie Govan before him that I had heard, like, way back 2009 or something like that. I heard Guthrie, and it just blew my mind. It opened up so many doors as to just even things you can do on the guitar that I didn't think of. Same with Tim. Tim has his absolute like unique style that he plays, that he does better than anyone. And I love those types of guitar players. I'm a big believer that you don't always have to be the most well-rounded guitarist. If you go to school for music, as I explain to students sometimes, if you go to school for music, typically they teach that you have to be extremely well-rounded, and you have to be able to play anything. And you may be called for a country gig one day, and then you may be called for a jazz gig the next day, and you have to be able to play it all. Personally, I actually disagree with that. I think you have to find what it is that you like, that you enjoy doing, and just work on that and become the best you can be at that. Have your own thing. No one's calling Eddie Van Halen for jazz gig. Like it would be hilarious. It would be very similar to the videos that I've been making recently. Um, but you have to find what it is you do and make your own mark. So you have your own sound and stuff like that. Tim absolutely has that. There's a lot of guys who have come out afterwards, kind of influenced by Tim and doing similar stuff. And I haven't seen anyone that I think does it as well as Tim. So yeah, he is an unbelievable talent on the guitar, has outstanding technique, but also has that amazing ability that few guitar players have, where they can be doing the most dazzling technical stuff on the instrument, and it's still a song that you want to listen to. It's melodic, it's beautiful. You can put it on and just listen to it. And there's, as you guys probably know, there's a lot of guitar players that they may have impressive technique, it may be amazingly fast or anything like that, but it's probably not a song you're just going to put on and listen to casually. But Tim has that beautiful, um, fine line. And I would say Eddie Van Halen had the same thing. And Jason Becker, he's extremely technical. He's extremely fast, but he still is on that fine line for me of just beautiful compositional music that I would love to listen to. And so I put Tim in that category with those guys, because to be able to pull that off is probably even harder than the technical aspect of what he's doing, if that makes sense. So yeah, that guy is like unbelievable. And with those guys, sometimes it's really hard to start listening to their music, want to play what they're playing. Like you want to figure out how they're doing this and what they're doing, and but then it's hard sometimes to not let it influence your own playing too much, where you just sound like you're trying to be Tim Henson. um, so it's important to kind of take some influence from him, um, but still have your own unique style, and have like the way it is that you play. Um, but yeah, so Tim Henson, unbelievable guitar player, absolutely. All right, let's get to some more questions. This is so much fun. I gotta do this more often. Can I do Goat as one of my When You Hire a Rock Guitarist videos? Um, you say I think it would be hard. I think you're absolutely right. It would be extremely hard. It would be cool. I think I maybe sat down with that one day, because uh, some songs obviously work better for those videos than others. Beat It was quite a challenge to try to make that fit, because it's not close to a jazz solo. Um, the Marty Friedman ones, when I did Symphony of Destruction and then Tornado of Souls, uh, Marty plays in a way that I think somewhat easily translates to jazz, because in some ways he's using some of the same kind of concepts, he's just delivering it differently. And so what I mean by that is, um, when he's doing those, like Marty does this amazing thing that if you guys aren't familiar with, you should absolutely try this in your playing, because it sounds so cool. And I do this from time to time, and usually when I do it, people are like, "Oh, that's kind of Marty Friedman-ish." So what it is if you have a scale, have a minor scale there. What he does is he will bend two notes in the scale from notes out of the scale. And it's a really, really cool effect. Jason Becker also did this quite a bit, probably influenced from Marty. And so as an example, I'll play like a simple melody here. So here's what Marty would do. Here's what other guitar players would do. If I have, so that last note, the G, the 12th fret, you could bend to that from 11. Sounds great. What Marty would do is he would actually bend probably from the 10th fret to outside of the scale. And when you hit that note at first, it sounds sour. Sounds out of key, like it doesn't really belong. But he'll bend. And you hear how much extra flavor that adds into such a simple melody. I'm not playing anything too crazy or too complex. But it makes the melody sound like way cooler and way more interesting. So that's a great thing you can add into your playing to really spice it up and not have to do anything too technical or too crazy. Um, so how's it go? Like in that little part of Tornado of Souls, that's kind of what he's doing there. And it just it gives such flavor. Even how he starts off the solo when it's in B, and he goes like that's the coolest start to a solo. It's like so cool. Most guitar players would have just gone, start on the B or bend from the A, which is in the key, and you'd have a more typical sound. But to go and then again, there he's bending from out of the key. Makes it sound so much cooler. The solo already rocks from that first note. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be amazing. I, and I'm probably not playing that too perfectly, but it's just trying to go by memory from when I learned it before. But yeah, it's like probably one of the greatest metal solos of all time, I would say. And obviously there would be huge debate for that, but it's pretty awesome. So even if like let's say you're starting with pentatonic and you're trying to you have the pentatonic scale memorized and you're pretty comfortable with it, you could kind of add in that Marty Friedman influence by just trying to bend two notes in the scale, bend to your pentatonic notes. Just bend from right behind it at first, and even if the note's not in the scale, it's like so much more flavor. And again, not doing anything too complex, not doing his crazy arpeggios and all that kind of stuff. That's like I love that style of his playing. But how's it go? Something like that, but just all those arpeggios that he adds in. So cool, like so cool. How do you start figuring stuff out by ear? Oh, that's actually a great question. So um, my ear has become way stronger over the years, and almost only from teaching. I teach a lot of students each week. Right now I have probably 45 to 50 students each week, so it's quite busy, which is great. I love it. And most of the time, the majority of the time, students are bringing in a song that day that they want to try out. And most of the time, people are not bringing in Tornado of Souls or something like that. But, they bring in songs they're listening to. And I like to challenge myself and test myself. So I try to pick it up by ear in the lesson quick enough so that I can also teach it to the student so that they can leave the lesson knowing what to do, knowing how to practice it, and can get started with it. So it keeps my ear really, really sharp. And the reason I also like to do it that way is for some students, you can tailor how you're playing it to work for them. So, say it's a song, say they're more of a beginner intermediate student. Um, they have a tough time with bar chords, let's say, right? And they're tough to play, which they can be. Then if I learn the chord, then I can decide, okay, let's maybe put on a capo for this song and make it a little bit easier and kind of do it in a way that works best for the student. So that's what keeps my ear really, really sharp is just the day in, day out practice of learning songs by ear. Now, before teaching, my ear was not nearly as strong at all. So it really is just about sitting down and practicing it, just like everything else. And at least for me, how it works is you basically build up a library of references in your head of things you've heard that you figured out and the sound of that. It obviously really helps to have the theory knowledge as well, because let's say you figure out it's a major seven chord, it's a major seven chord. And then next time you hear a major seven chord, it's more likely that you're going to be able to pick up what it is. Or even chord progressions. Like let's say you kind of know what a 1-4-5 progression sounds like. The next time you hear a 1-4-5, you're likely to know it or at least be really, really close if you have an educated guess. So you basically build up this like library of references of uh, things that you've learned, and that's how you build up your ear. And you don't just go like stumbling around the fretboard trying to find the right note. Knowing the oh, can you guys still hear me? I don't know if it cut out there for a second. Um, so you would start by learning the intervals, like the intervals of the major scale, and trying to actually hear them and recognize them with your ear. So if I play, you can hear that's a perfect fourth. And then, so if you know the first note, this is called relative pitch. So if I tell you the first note C and you know it's a perfect fourth, then you would know the second note is F, right? So that's how you would build up your ear that way. But yeah, again, like all things, it's just a lot of practice and you get better at it over time for sure. There's still things that I hear, of course, that kind of stump me, and then maybe I'll have to look it up. But as you keep practicing, the list of that just keeps going down, which is great. Is there any specific Marty Friedman song where he uses this technique? Yeah, he does it quite a bit. So whether you go back to the cacophony stuff, or if you're listening to Megadeth, of course, or his solo stuff, which is also great, by the way. I love a lot of his solo stuff. Um, he uses it quite a lot. It's a big part of his playing. He's got some also he also has some great quick like lesson videos on YouTube. Like I don't know if it's really posted by him, but you can find them on YouTube of him doing these quick lessons of, I saw one the other day and it's actually really great. He was just talking about taking like a simple scale like pentatonic and just how he would make that a lot more interesting. And of course, when he plays it his own way, it sounds like 100 times cooler. And usually it's adding in a lot of the notes in between, stuff like that. And all of a sudden it sounds way cooler. But the foundation and structure of what he's doing is the same as his advanced version. But yeah, the bending outside of the key. You'll find that in a lot of his playing, and it really does contribute to his sound. When you think of Marty Friedman, it's a big contributor to what makes him sound like him. So actually, sorry, getting back to what I was talking about before is when doing these jazz guitar or rock guitars in a jazz gig videos just for fun. When he's bending outside of a key into the key, a lot of jazz guys would do that, just not with bends. They would just do it with slides. So um, doing the tornado of souls, like, and then you have to play it with a little bit of swing too. That's kind of what makes it. Give it that bounce. And I'm probably still doing too much vibrato for like a true jazz player, but um, that that's how it translates pretty well. Is he's using a lot of the chromatics that a jazz player would use as well, but just doing it differently, delivering it differently, using slides. A lot of jazz lines. You hear that a lot, right? Sliding from a note outside of the key into a note in the key, and it gives it that really kind of like tasty sound, if that makes sense. What advice would you give to someone starting a band? It's a good question. What advice would you give to someone starting a band? There's a couple things that come to mind. Um, don't be afraid of finding musicians that aren't exactly the same as you. For example, like take me. Say I'm a big Van Halen fan, love that guitar heavy stuff. If I find someone to start a band with who is into punk rock or into grunge or even into like more pop stuff, just something, and again, those are styles of music that I like, but just that's their strong point, that's what they're influenced by, and that's how they play. At first you may think it's probably not going to be a good mix, but it actually probably will be a great mix. That's how some of the best bands are formed, is by these members having various influences, and then when they come together it builds this kind of melting pot that creates a unique sound. So who I'm thinking of is Guns N' Roses. You take someone like Slash, who had very much an Aerosmith influence, had that blues rock way of playing. But then you match him up with someone like Duff McKagan, the bass player, who grew up in punk, Seattle music. And I think that's where you get that Guns N' Roses tone of songs like It's So Easy and My Michelle and all that stuff, where it's like, it's not just straightforward blues rock stuff. There's like this other element of just a little bit of punk rock added into it. So that's just one example, but try to collaborate with musicians who do things differently than you do. You all add your own individual influences in, and then you'll probably come up with something unique and really, really cool. Because, like, let's say with Slash, if he's a big Aerosmith fan, he just found another guy who loves Aerosmith. They're probably just going to sound like Aerosmith at the end of the day, right? Like, obviously, no knock to Slash, like he's incredible and everything, clearly, but just you know what I mean. Like, it's probably just going to sound like that the band that all of you are influenced by, instead of taking a melting pot of ideas. That would be one advice for starting a band. Just jam with as many people as you can and see who you kind of connect with. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you can find musicians who are like into the same stuff you're into, and they're great musicians and stuff. But when it comes to being in a band, it just, you guys need that extra chemistry of just being able to get along right. Well, not all bands do that, but like, at least you need to work well together and create good music together. So that's probably what I would suggest about getting into a band. And there's a lot of advice you could do about getting into a band though. There's a lot. So what other questions do you guys have about guitar or practicing or anything like that? I'd love to answer as many as I can before I go. Another great question. How do you start improvising? I actually do have a video on my channel called um, How to Get Started Playing Lead Guitar. I think that's the wording I used. And so that's actually a video I would suggest watching because it pretty much is introduction into how you would start playing lead, but also from an improvising standpoint. So in that video, I talk about getting to know the pentatonic scale at first, which I would always start students with who are getting into improvising because the pentatonic is the simplest scale, easiest to memorize. It's the most universal, best sounding scale when it comes to just any style of music. Knowing where to put it on the fretboard is a big part of it, which I also explained in that video. So, kind of being able to count your way across the fretboard to find the different notes. So, if I say let's play the pentatonic in C, or if I F sharp or D, whatever it is, you can find where you would put your scale, and then you play it in that spot. And I would just start off with just your root position pentatonic, get familiar with that. I always say that if you can't make a simple scale like the pentatonic sound really good, then knowing more sophisticated scales is not actually going to help you very much, right? If you can make the pentatonic sound really good and you really do as much as you can with that scale, you're adding in as many ideas and techniques and phrasing and everything as you can to make the pentatonic sound awesome. Then when you go to the modes and the, full major minor scales and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to have even more at your disposal. But at first, take something simple like the pentatonic and try to make it sound as good as possible. And that's where it's going to challenge your phrasing, which is the most important thing when it comes to improvising. Not speed, not even technique, um, phrasing. Phrasing is the biggest thing. So um, that's what I would do is check out that video, learn the pentatonic, know where to put it on the fretboard, then play it to backing tracks. And on YouTube, there's thousands and thousands of them in all different styles. Find ones that you like. And, if it's a blues, just use your pentatonic. Obviously, near the end, I went a little crazy, but like you get the point where it's like just do as much as you can with the scale, make it sound as cool as possible, and then you go to a different, kind of like funk fusion backing track and play differently there. When did I start playing guitar? I was lucky to start quite young, and you don't have to. Of course, I've had students start guitar, later in life. It's all about how motivated you are, how much you enjoy it, and if you have a passion for it, it doesn't matter if you start when you're 60 years old, if you start when you're 6 years old. If you can start when you're 8 years old, and if you're not motivated to play, you're probably not going to get too far. You can probably play some stuff and everything, but you're not going to push yourself to really get as good as you can be. But if you start when you're 60 years old and you love the guitar and you love music and you can't put it down, you're going to get really, really good. And you don't need like a ton of time to get really good. Like if you put in consistent practice and you're really working on stuff, you'd be amazed what you can accomplish in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. You can you can be in a band going pro if you wanted to, if you put in the dedication. So Older students always say that, like, oh, is it silly to start this late? I'm I'm 30 years old. Is it silly to start playing guitar? It's like, no, not at all. You have so many years to get like as good as you can be. So like, I've had students in their late 70s, early 80s, and they practice every day and they love it. And it's amazing. It's so cool. Um, so never feel like you're too old to start playing guitar. It's no, never. But I started playing when I believe I got my first guitar at the age, I think it was my 8th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And I was really into guitar. I loved guitar music, and I just literally couldn't put it down. I wanted to try to learn everything I could. And yeah, by the time I was 11, 12, I was, pretty decent. And then I was in bands in high school. And then I was lucky enough to win a guitar competition when I was 17. Actually, I could show you guys. You guys might like this. This is the trophy. Just excuse the dust. I should have cleaned it off. But this is the trophy that I got when I was 17. You can see it has my name on there. If it will show. I don't know if that's reading, but it's called the North American Rock Guitar Competition, and it was a worldwide competition that PBS made. And it was an unbelievable experience. I entered, and they took from like 1,000 people down to a top six, and then the top six went to Buffalo to perform and in front of judges. And talk about nerve-wracking judges. You have someone from Gibson Guitars, because they were sponsoring the event, and they had really awesome guitars that they brought with them. The head of the guitar program at Musicians Institute. Oh, your guitar is hard to hear. Sorry, man. I'm trying to have it as loud as it can. Maybe next time I'll have it set up a little bit better. I'm also trying to hope that you guys don't hear any background noise with the family being home and stuff like that. So still trying to figure that out. But so the judges, the head of the guitar program for Musicians Institute, and then also John Five, the guitar player for Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. He was the like celebrity judge for the guitar competition, and I was really fortunate to win. And as the winner of the competition, you get to go up on stage and play with the judges. So I actually got a jam blues with John Five and the guys from uh, the Gibson and everything. And there is a little video on my channel from years and years ago where I look totally different. And it was probably one of the coolest experiences is being able to jam and play with John Five. So yeah, by the time I was 17, 18 years old, I was, you know, pretty good on the guitar at that point to win the competition, stuff like that. But it's again, it's just the hours and hours of practicing and dedication. If you really love it and you work on it, then um, you can get really good in a short amount of time. Is the point I'm trying to make. So, any opinions on self-teaching programs such as Guitar Tricks or Justin Guitar Musician? I am actually not too familiar with a lot of those programs, but I do know that some of my students use them as well, in addition to our lessons. I do, you can't learn too much, and so it can only help to have those extra supplements. Or if you're not taking lessons, then they can be great programs to just learn from. So yeah, I think they're great. If you find that they work for you and they motivate you and that you can grasp them and everything, then absolutely use them and have fun. It's all about having fun. That's the most important thing. It's just you never want to be if you saw my last video or one of my last videos about learning songs or boring exercises, should always be fun. So just if you find what you're doing is not motivating and it's boring, do something different. Yeah. Let's see. How are you coming up with that phrasing on the pentatonic? You just went on the fifths or the fives and the sevenths. I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but how you coming up with the phrasing on the pentatonic? With the pentatonic, you can do like so much. There's so much you can do with that scale without adding in any extra notes. When you watch Joe Bonamassa and Eric Johnson and those guys, they kind of get known for like pentatonic players, like all they do is pentatonic, which is not true. They do so much more than that, but even their pentatonic phrases usually add in some extra notes. They'll add in like the seconds or the sixths and stuff like that, and that's what really makes it sound really interesting. But yeah, with the pentatonic, just if you try to add in a lot of bends and really kind of just think melodically, think of how you would sing the melody. With the pentatonic, then you can go and learn the other positions of the pentatonic, and that's where it gets more interesting because you have more of the fretboard. Right there, I'm sticking in root position. So then you can learn the other positions. That's where I know them. And then that's where it gets more interesting. You're still using a simple scale like the pentatonic, but you can move around the entire fretboard. That kind of cool Joe Bonamassa style of playing. Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. I mean, 5 or 7 note phrases. Those can be very cool to add in. That's actually another thing I got from Marty Friedman. A lesson way back in the day is talking about using the pentatonic, but in 5 note groupings. And nowadays, there's a lot of players who do that. But at the time, I hadn't really heard anyone else do that. So just taking the pentatonic and playing in fives, 5 notes, and then starting another 5 note group. And you can hear it has a cool rhythm to it. That can be a really, really cool thing to add in. But if you're saying with no bends or no nuances, that's what really makes the phrasing come alive. So try to add in as many of those techniques as you can. You can do the slides. So oh, like that can sound really cool like that. Hammer-ons and pull-offs. But bends for sure. But as I always say to students, bends are like one of the coolest things on the guitar, the electric guitar, that a lot of instruments can't do, right? Like if you play trumpet or piano or something, you can't play a note. Can't do that. Like it's the coolest sound, right? So you got to use that when you're playing, and use your bends because it really is one of the things that allows the guitar to express emotion that way, right? Because if I just go instead of like I'm not moving around the fretboard too fast or anything like that, but that sounded like super super cool. So definitely try to add in bends and try to learn to do as much as you can with bends. The cool thing with bends is everyone does them differently. If you listen to any guitar players, they're all just going to bend the notes differently. You find your own feel with them and your own way of doing it. Same with vibrato. A lot of guitar players have kind of their own vibrato, whether it's like wild like that or if it's kind of subtle, slow. Very cool. Do I know super low Korean and diminished scales? I do know them. I don't use them very often. Diminished scales, I don't use the diminished scale a whole lot. I definitely use diminished arpeggios, and half diminished arpeggios and stuff like that. At least in the style of music that I play, they could work. It's just not something I use very often, to be honest. But I do like using the arpeggios a lot of the time. So yeah, not as much as maybe I should sit down and look at those and come up with some cool stuff with it. So I will be wrapping up shortly. If anyone has any uh, quick questions before I go, again, I want to say thanks to everybody for really supporting the channel and building it up to what it is. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all so much. And it really motivates me to keep trying to put out the best content that I can think of. And I always want to know what it is that you guys want to hear or see or, watch or anything like that. So always let me know in the comments and stuff like that what you want to see more of. And it's a lot of fun, and when I'm getting the feedback from you guys, it's very motivating to keep going with it and keep it up. So I do plan on doing more of these lives. This is really fun, and maybe I'll do it once a week or something like that, and just answer the questions and anything you guys want help with. I'm always happy to answer. It's fun to talk about guitar. It's fun to help people learn the guitar. I thoroughly enjoy that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I think next time I'll schedule the live so that everyone knows when it's going up. I'm still new to this, so as I said, uh, you know, be patient with me on this. All right, last question. Last question I'll do is what made you want to start uploading more? So if you go to my channel, you will notice a huge uh, gap in posting. It will be like videos from like 2007 to 2012-ish or something like that. And then I took like a huge break, and not really intentionally. I honestly didn't really plan on getting back into it. Um, but my teaching is quite busy, but it's to a point where I can't really scale it any further without just making for really crazy busy days. So I wanted to try to think of like how to do more with the teaching, offer more, and reach a bigger audience without teaching for 12 hours a day. So I thought, the YouTube content and the TikTok, it's like a great way to um, reach a bigger audience and be able to kind of scale it in a way where maybe I can um, show some of my things that I show students, like my opinions and practices that I give to students and help a bigger audience that way. So ever since I've started, I've been really happy that I did because it's been a lot of fun, and it's also with the pandemic, to be honest, you're kind of stuck at home, don't have as much to do, and I'm thinking, well, how can, if everything's going online, how can I kind of take advantage of that opportunity and make it kind of work for me and what it is I do. Before the pandemic, all my teaching was in person, and obviously you can only do so much of that. Um, so I was thinking, okay, well, how do I take this online and make it work? And so now all of my teaching is online currently, and I've been having students from all over the world sign up in the last few weeks thanks to YouTube. So it's really been rewarding as well, but it's been a lot of fun to connect with students from literally all over the world. To me, it's so fascinating and it's so cool that that can happen. So I think it's just awesome. So that's why I've been starting to upload, and it's also a lot more motivating. During that gap, I would come up with ideas. I would come up with either video ideas or even songs. I would write music still because I loved writing music and producing music, but it was discouraging because it would just sit on my computer and no one would ever hear it. And maybe I'd send it to a couple friends or something like that, but like nothing was ever done with it. And then so it didn't really make me want to sit down and work on new music, and put a lot of effort into stuff that nothing's ever going to come from it. So I was thinking, well, if I put it on YouTube, then that way it's shared with an audience. It's more motivating, and hopefully some of you guys like it. And what's been funny, I'll add, is that a lot of the videos that have done really well, especially on TikTok, are always the videos that I didn't think anyone would care about. Like every single time, I'll put a lot of effort into a certain video, and then nothing really happens, and I'm like, I thought that was the one. I thought that was the video that everyone was gonna dig," and it's like, doesn't really go anywhere. And then I post, for example, I posted a funny video just teasing in a light way Rick Beato and his quick lesson videos, and I love Rick Beato. I think he's great. He's a great guitar player, and I love his channel. Um, but his quick lesson videos, I kind of did like a little funny parody of it, and I was like, no one's really gonna get this joke. And then the video like blew up and got like 100,000 views, and I think like 100,000 on YouTube as well, which to me was amazing because like I know he's obviously very popular, but I just didn't think anyone would get the joke of what I'm doing. And so it's always that's the way it happens. And I did one that you guys might have seen where I overdubbed a DJ Khaled video where DJ Khaled gets a guitar gifted to him. And if you've seen the original, then he's not exactly the person to be playing the guitar, I'll say. And so I overdubbed it with my playing, and the fun part was I tried to match up his strumming hand and do that. And again, I didn't think that would really get a lot of attention. And on TikTok, it has almost 6 million views, which is insane. It had like in the first like I think 9 hours, it had 1 million views or something insane like that, which to me is amazing. So um, that it just motivates me to try to come up with more ideas and keep going with it because it's a lot of fun and see what people react to. And I love doing the lesson stuff. So again, always let me know what you guys want help with, and I'll either reply in the comments or I'll make a video showing exactly what I would do for what it is you're trying to get better at. So thank you guys again. I can't say thanks enough. 1,000 subscribers is like really, really cool to me. I didn't think it would get to that point so quickly. So thank you for everyone who supported. Greatly appreciate it. And yeah, let's do this again next week because this is fun. All right, guys. Thank you.